Hi there, and welcome to the latest edition of OGV Live. That's the live version of OGV Energy's magazine. This publication is all about innovation and technology, and we're going to be speaking to some fantastic guests in the next hour and a half around that space in terms of left-hand side startup ideas and innovation, right the way through to commercialization of ideas in that innovation technology space, specifically within the energy sector. We're brought to you by this magazine, OGV Energy. If it's not on your desktop or your reception table, go to our website and you'll find out how to get copies of it delivered. It's packed full this month of innovation around legal, renewables, contract awards information, but specifically around the topics of innovation and technology. My name is Graham Gordon. I am the CEO of a company called IFB.net. We've been servicing the oil and gas industry with IT managed services for nearly 29 years. So we've seen a lot of innovation in that space, lots of things happening, lots of technologies, lots of people, lots of ideas moving through that space, helping the northeast of Scotland and the expertise that's here really internationalize itself. So we're thinking that innovation and technology, but also internationalization as we go through energy transition is going to be a theme that we're going to pick up today with our guests. To let you know who's coming up, our headline guests coming in a second come from GDI, NZTC and HGF. So OGF and IFB, there's a lot of acronyms in there today. Then we're doing the In the Spotlight section where we've got representatives from Segal, Field Note and Asset 55. Teresa Wilkie is going to be giving us a market update. She's from Westwood Global Energy Group just a bit later on. And we're going to finish off today's webinar with Stuart Broadley, who's the CEO of the IC. He's going to be telling us about the Energy Exports Conference that's coming to Aberdeen very soon, actually, on the 11th and 12th of June, and how you can be part of that if you're interested in that space in terms of innovation and technology. And what we're going to do now is introduce our guests this afternoon. And what we're going to do is allow the guests to tell us who they are, what they do and who they do this for. And if you can start off, Ed, if you can go first for us, Ed Pollock.
Hello, welcome. Nice to meet you all. So I see myself very much as generally an innovation energizer. My day-to-day involves working with startups, and I work as the acceleration manager at the Net Zero Technology Centre. And day in and day out, I get the pleasure of hopefully curating programs and training and opportunities that help early stage businesses at the moment in the energy sector grow and develop. My background's been, I've worked in universities, I've done other startup programs, but every day I get the opportunity to support innovation and technology get to market through building businesses, building teams, and building commercial technologies and products. So thank you for inviting me to the show.
You're welcome, Ed. And we're going to go from left to right in this sort of innovation hockey stick. Ed is nurturing startup businesses and ideas. Gareth's right in the middle of that. Gareth, if you could tell us who you are, what you do, and who you do it for, please.
Yeah, thanks, Graham. And again, thanks for having us on. Gareth McIntyre, I'm one of the directors at GDI. I'm responsible for the software development or the R&D side of our business. As a bit of a journey for GDI, formed in 2016. In 2018, we received funding from what was then known, another acronym, the OGTC, now the NZTC, which Edward's part of. That journey was to create two technologies, digital twins, which we've now deployed across the world through our software solution Vision, and the ability to ascertain condition using the same technology, which we've also scaled across the UKCS, and we have operations across the world. So great to be here and really excited to talk about innovation or technology as you in those spaces.
Fantastic. Thank you, Gareth. And right at the other side of that, but a theme all the way through is how do you protect that innovation and those ideas as you go through? So John, tell us about that IP side of things and what you do and who you do it for, please.
Thanks, Graham. Yeah, so I'm John Johnston. I'm a patent attorney at HGF. As for HGF, we're one of the largest specialist intellectual property firms in Europe. We have 25 offices across the UK and Europe, over 190 patent attorneys, trademark attorneys, and solicitors. We deal with everything from advising on IP to securing IP rights across a range of technology sectors, from engineering to life sciences. And we're fairly unique in that we have IP solicitors as well that can deal with agreements, contracts, licenses, and full-blown litigation. As for me, I work within our engineering group and our energy team. And for a bit of context, prior to entering the legal profession, I was a well site operations engineer, so I kind of have a bit of a handle on energy, if you like, from a hands-on perspective.
Brilliant. Great introduction, and thank you, guys. And wherever you're watching this afternoon, we're live on YouTube and also LinkedIn and Instagram and the platform formerly known as X, which is like a Prince reference. So every time you have to say it, send us your messages, any questions that you've got, and we'll pick those up. And if they're any good, we might even ask the guests here what they're at. John, if I could start with you, if that's okay. IP tends to or can sometimes get left late in the day when it comes to innovation, and certainly in the technology space, in our space, in the digital technology space. Is that something you see, and how soon should you start that chat with an IP expert?
Well, like many legal issues, IP-related issues can easily become complex and expensive to deal with, if not understood and addressed early. I would say that it's probably never too early to consider IP and the importance and the value and the commercial relevance of IP to a business, but it can be too late, certainly in respect of patentability and obtaining patents, which we can get into later. It can be a bit of a chicken and egg scenario, though. Obviously, it can be an expensive service, and startups perhaps don't have the funds necessary to embark on an IP journey at the outset. But what I would say is having the awareness of, and hopefully this chat will provide that, at the end of this, some of the viewers at least have an idea as to the potential importance of IP. When it comes to that part of the journey, if at least then they can consider it, I've kind of done my job, if you like. I think having the awareness is really important. And obviously speaking to a legal professional is quite a complex area of law is also really important. But having it at the forefront of innovators' minds can be essential, or is essential to the commercial success of a business.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about the commercial success and how you commercialize IP in a moment or two. Ed, is that something you're seeing these people with startup ideas coming to you? You're just rounding off a cohort, I think, in TechX, is that right? And is it something that people naturally bring with them, or is it something you're installing in them through that cohort program?
Great question. So with TechX, our program is very technology focused. That generally comes with intellectual property. And most accelerator programs, when they're looking for those businesses that can scale globally, create global impact, that often requires, at the heart of it, some novelty, some invention, some inventive step that will come with intellectual property. But of course, in the world of innovation and technology and in our industries, it's not just about those businesses that have that novelty of a core technology that can scale. There are other types of businesses too. But for TechX, often they are working on a novel invention that is either in the process of being kind of formalized through IP, or is looking at, as they grow and finalize it, then registering those as official patents. And we have a lot of really innovative things that have come through the Net Zero Technology Centre that we're there to support and be the vehicle to help them get that IP support or to fully validate the technology. And that's what we hope to do through the programs that we offer.
Thanks. And as a child, so to speak, of that environment, Gareth, you've had that first-hand experience of coming through that process and having an idea and an innovation in technology. Digital twin outside of this space has been around for a while, but adapting it in the environment you're in, which is really exciting. Were you thinking about IP coming through this? I need to look after this idea? When did it dawn on you? We can make a lot of money out of this, and we don't want somebody else to.
Yeah, it's a really interesting space, and given our journey, there's almost 2 points in time. There was when we first went through the NZTC program, we were effectively 6 people in a room. We were a small business. It wasn't on our bandwidth. It wasn't on our radar, and whether we had the bandwidth or the commercial requirements to progress that, is unknown. What we did do was we engaged with Scottish Enterprise. They provide some funding for small businesses to perform IP reviews. At that time, we were basically advised that software is a minefield with regards to protection. I understand more recently that landscape's changed, so it'd be interesting to potentially discuss that. And then now with our new application, which is front and center of the OGV magazine, we are now 150 people, and we're in a different place, and we are going through formal IP review process. So 2 points of view: a larger business where more structure in place, more capital, etc., more bandwidth to be able to go through these processes, and being an early stage startup where is it on our radar? Probably not. We're putting out fires all over the place. But yeah, I think it's a changing landscape with regards to technology, and more particularly with software.
And you talk about that changing landscape. If we go back to mid 2022, AI was a thing that was a way over there. It was happening, and we thought it was coming. And you get to February 23, and the landscape is completely changed. So for a lot of consumers, I think AI is going to be a little bit like a microwave. Lots of people will use it for 30 seconds to do something, but the technology and the impact behind it is going to be much more impactful. And how do you see that impact in there, Gareth? I know you've got a Focus AI tool set in there. How have you had to change the business?
Fundamentally, we haven't had to change our business. Our business is built on innovation and built on delivering new products. So we're fortunate that we haven't had to, like the large businesses, service companies out there, extremely turn around our businesses. With regards to the AI landscape, and more specifically to the energy industry, for example, artificial intelligence, this big banner of a word, this kind of catch-all, has been around for potentially decades. I know more recently it's now seeping its way properly into our day-to-day lives. However, within the energy industry, we have been pioneering technology, data analytics, machine learning for about a decade now. It's more recently the acceleration is now starting, and it's going at some speed, and capital expenditure is being ploughed into this across the world. And what we've done is, well, we've noticed that, we've seen the weak signals, we've been part of that already, and we've really fostered that mindset within our business, and we've, excuse the pun, focused it within a discrete application. And that application is within technical writing within industry, and that is what Focus AI is centered on. So we're now proving that we can part automate standard technical reporting within the industry. So whether that's work instructions, inspection reporting, anomaly review processes, all of these things which have been done since day one, but have been very manumatic and haven't really had any sort of intelligence or analytics applied to it. We're now well in amongst that, and we see a significant opportunity in this space.
So do you see AI has perhaps removed some barriers to innovation by creating space within an organization time?
It's done two things from my point of view, and we've got first-hand experience of this. It's very powerful, so it's a very compelling sell. So when we engage with our clients, etc., we can quite easily articulate the value proposition with this technology. It packs a punch. The barrier, though, is still there, that fundamentally is change, and we could go into the psychology of change and the barriers within that. But more specifically with artificial intelligence, there's an inherent view of this will take my job. Our view is that this isn't automated driving. This is more akin to lane assist. This is tools to allow people to be ultra productive. So this isn't taking jobs. This is another wave of innovation, which is ensuring that infrastructure or industry can remain relevant and efficient.
Ed, I'll get to you in a second in terms of how that fits into how startups drive innovation and the role they play. John, a minefield for a software developer, but from a legal point of view, that AI within the energy sector, how are you looking at that now from that IP's point of view, that I've got a great idea for a company. What's it going to be? It's going to be Facebook for dogs. Hang on a minute, that's easy to identify. It's more. There's more nuances now, I would think, that AI brings in there.
Yes, there's the added complexity that kind of AI, machine learning, software-related inventions provide. It's a fairly complex and grey area of patent law, anyway. And so you're almost then trying to protect either the underlying mechanism or the process that's taking place. But it's a fairly difficult area. So it's not an area of expertise that I have. We have certain attorneys within our firm is in software, what we call computer implemented invention. But it's definitely an area of increased activity. 100%. To what's actually being protected. I couldn't possibly say right now.
And do you see the energy sector as being an opportunity in this space, or is it at risk in this space? I mean, Gareth was saying it's this move in technology, the innovation that it brings, is especially within energy. Does it seem a much more appropriate here than any other sector, or does it feel sort of just another thing to do? How are you feeling about it?
Definitely a lot of opportunity. I think. Sorry, was that for Edward, or it's breaking up slightly?
No, for you. Sorry, John. Yeah, I should have been more concise.
Yeah.
Forgive me.
No, definitely an area of opportunity in the energy space, especially in terms of maintenance and inspection, using AI to analyze data collected on site to then provide efficient outcomes is definitely something I see being used going forward. A lot of these manual, laborious processes can be made much more efficient through the use of AI. Kind of what Gareth said about people having the fear that AI will take jobs and everything else. I think it's more of a case of it will just change what the jobs are, rather than taking jobs in and of itself. So you'll have somebody who's looking at the analysis rather than going and collecting the data, or whatever it might be. So I think there will be new opportunities that open up as a result of the efficiencies that those algorithms provide.
That makes perfect sense, and we're into the sort of last 10 minutes of the 30 minutes, and it's a great subject. We're going to focus in the last 5 or so minutes about innovation in the Northeast, what the potential is, which was a point there. But just as we get there, Ed, where we're at now, startups driving innovation, but industry's input required to help with that driving innovation. How do those two stack up within the energy sector, specifically here? And energy sector's making the front page of the FT and the Times and the Guardian for the first time in a very long time, and it's rightly it does. But you're talking about that startup role, but also industry's role there. Ed, what are you seeing in that space? What are your thoughts there?
Absolutely. And I think if we know the transition's underway, and we know there's this big journey to go on, and there's a lot of priorities for organizations, and innovation, fundamentally can be about helping businesses thrive and grow and build new products and new services, which is exciting. But for some, it's also about survival as well, to keep ahead of the curve and to keep on top of it. And I think startups play a critical role across both of those areas. So for some of those, AI is a great example that we were just talking about there, is startups have agility, they have flexibility, they have new ideas, they bring things where the energy industry as a traditional industry trying to move at a pace can be quite challenging, to be able to innovate, to be able to manage the risk, to be able to take those leaps and those opportunities that if in isolation they were to try and explore all of the different opportunities there are for technologies, while there's the resource, it's difficult. They've got a traditional operation, they've got to survive, they've got to keep a business going. So startups are a unique ingredient to that mix in that they have the opportunity to experiment, to build, to test, to learn, to fail, and be able to, support these industries to grow. But I think what's important is that it can't happen in isolation. Startups need a customer, they need to have buy-in from industry, and industry also needs to make time. I think innovation is one of those words that unfortunately can become quite a buzzword in organizations where we're innovative and we're disruptive. And how does that manifest itself? Are people given the time in big energy industry to explore innovation? Is there the culture where actually there's people dedicated to exploring pilots and speaking with startups and having those meetings? Is there enough resourcing put to it or incentives to encourage companies to take those on? So in terms of startups, they need industry, they need that support, they want to showcase their technologies. We have a big event next week. It's the end of our accelerator program on the 6th of June, live we're inviting the industry to meet amazing technology startups so that they can have that time to explore innovation and meet with these companies and learn about it so that they can take that step forward. But we need more of that. And here in the Northeast, we have a lot of great businesses, but whether they are potentially at the risk of not surviving the change if they don't take on innovation, or whether there's an amazing opportunity to thrive and grow by taking on innovation and startups in their own work. I think that's the real stuff that hopefully industry can take more time and kind of connect with that startup ecosystem to take on products, to trial it, to experiment, so that innovation can thrive here and across the industry.
That's three great points of view, and that opportunity that the innovation and technology is bringing. And the negative headlines around that energy transition, we're perhaps 10 years off before renewables really has an impact that fossil fuels has had forever. And we've got to, stopping production is not the solution, I believe. I don't want to get too political. We've got to keep production, but it's how we are super efficient there, how we our footprint is so minimal. How do we do all these things? And all that is about innovation and technology. So maybe we're into that sort of last 5-6 minutes of where we're at. What opportunities, Gareth, do you see the northeast of Scotland in this space? I mean, tech, digital tech, we're all in that space, the four of us, five of us in this area here. What opportunities in terms of do you see? Is it local? Is it in renewables? Is it in transition? Is it international? What do you see that? And I'll ask John and Edward the same thing as well.
Yeah, and as an Aberdonian, I've got to watch not getting too political and getting shaking my fist type stuff as well. But I'm very passionate about this, and I think it's all of the above. Mm-hmm. Clearly, the Northeast is in a relatively precarious position, both from a political, capital flight position, etc. However, as I said at the start, we as a region have got some of the greatest minds on the planet. We have managed highly complex infrastructure. We've built, managed, and taken beyond design life highly complex infrastructure. And I think the opportunity and a good example of bodies like the NZTC, etc. We grew with the NZTC because they provided funding and effectively risk reduction to innovate. We then transitioned into other industries with the assistance of the ETZ. And more recently, we've had support from Opportunity Northeast to develop our new artificial intelligence application. I think that the opportunities are massive. I think our politicians need to get their act together relatively in this space. But I think as a region, we have significant expertise and skill sets and a huge drive of innovation for the past 40, 50 years. Mm-hmm. Let's just not say that this is a recent thing. And I think we can redeploy that across industry and across the world. And that's our agenda. And that's what we're proving to do. And I think hopefully we are proof that that is doable and that we can remain relevant as a region forevermore.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think as a postcode, we're probably the most international place in the UK, maybe outside the city of London, and that square mile that sits in there. And we're taken for granted or overlooked too many times without being political. That's just how it is. John, are you seeing these companies that have been around 40, 50 years and protecting IP now moving into that digital technology IP space? Has there been a move in there that we know what good IP looks like, so we need to protect it in this next wave?
There is. I guess there's more broadly the shift into protection of IP in the renewable space in general. Almost building more on what Gareth had said, the Northeast, there are so many legacy businesses been operating in the Northeast, solving challenges and problems in the oil industry for the last 40 years. And the energy transition will be driven by innovation. And so, there are some massive problems within the renewable space that need to be solved. So there are businesses and people there equipped, used to solving problems, in the perfect position to develop new technologies to facilitate that. You've also got those legacy businesses being forced almost to move into the renewable space, whether that's due to commercial opportunities that are available there going forward, or even in some cases due to the external pressure, the PR, the marketing, and everything else. So I think broadly, in terms of the energy transition and moving into the renewable space, the Northeast is perfectly equipped. They have the international ties. It's an energy hub anyway. The only issue is with some renewable technologies and the renewable industry in general. It's much more geographically agnostic, and it's trying to fight against that is probably the main challenge. In terms of product development, innovation, there's absolutely no issue in my eyes, and we're seeing a lot of our clients providing new technology to facilitate the transition itself.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the stats, we used to be heavily into data centers, and Scotland has got something like 45% of the offshore energy generation potential of the whole of Europe. So we're a tiny wee company right on the edge of Europe, but we've got 45% of that green renewable, and that's the next challenge. That's a whole industry, and I think that's a massive thing. Ed, how are you seeing that? And I'm going to leave the last few words to you. How do you see that opportunity for the northeast of Scotland, traditional businesses moving into technology and innovation and digital space? And it's not always digital, but how we set up, what are the opportunities for the northeast here? How would you see it?
I think the Northeast has a fantastic opportunity, similar to what others have said. We have the talent, we have the credibility, we have the expertise. We have to bear in mind there's a different generation coming in. And I think the role of the Northeast is to be a beacon of hope and a beacon of inspiration in terms of how we transition, the opportunities for skills and work. And I think technology is that exciting part of it. Hopefully we can be seen as that global center of exciting new technologies that move. There's still a legacy that we're building on, and there's a lot of talent there. But actually, if we can be the region across the world that people look to, the way that startups in Silicon Valley are globally known for that culture, that community, that talent that comes together around a common technology area, is Aberdeen Energy Valley, where we can build those technologies, where we can see innovation, that we can see those ideas that becomes a sort of global inspiration to others to say, this is what the future of energy could look like. Will we get there? We need industry there. We need technologies. We need startups. We need the talent to stay and be upskilled to these new areas. But if anywhere is going to try it, it's got to be the Northeast. So fingers crossed that as we evolve, everybody comes and brings all of that innovation, inspiration, and talent to the party.
I think that's a great way to conclude. Gentlemen, it's been a fantastic conversation, and we could do another hour on this, I'm sure, between the three of you. And I think we'll use Ed's comment of a beacon of hope. We should be a beacon of hope for not just the Northeast, but the rest of the planet as we transition into that energy. Gareth, John, and Edward, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Fascinating conversation there in terms of those three gentlemen and what their viewpoints are in terms of our views on innovation and technology. Don't forget, this is OGV Live, or OGV Energy. The magazine is out just last week, and it's packed full of comment, observation, and real products, real solutions that you're looking for if you're in this space within that sector. Don't forget, you can message us. We're live on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, and X, formerly known as whatever it was. And we're moving on to the next section. Coming up quite shortly, we're going to be speaking to Teresa Wilkie, who's the director of Westwood Global Energy Group. She's going to be giving us a market update. But in our next session, which is our spotlight session, I'd like to introduce three folks who are here to talk about where we're moving next in terms of their technology sector that they're in and how they're impacting their customers. So as we did last time, gentlemen, I'd like to ask you to introduce yourself, who you are, what you do and who you do it for. And I'll give you your order, so you're going to have to remember which one you're in. Connor, Thomas, and then Henry. Connor, good to see you.
Thank you, Graham, and thank you for having me today. My name is Connor O'Leary. I'm a director at Asset 55. We're a technology company based out of the Northeast, established in 2012. We provide services across a vast array of fields, from process integrity through to capital project execution. And perhaps I'll touch on some of those products here today. I'm personally based out of mainland Europe, originally from Ireland. I'm your atypical digital nomad. I move around a lot, following the projects and the exciting startup companies I've worked with. So that's me.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Thomas Blunt. I'm a senior software developer at Segal. Segal is a global tech company specializing in the energy sector. We have offices in London and Aberdeen and across the globe. We deliver cloud and managed services for the entire energy sector, as well as specialized software in O&G domain, also including consultancy for things like data management and data science. I work in the products department with our data science products. My background is as a geologist and data scientist, so I'm very interested in AI, how we can use AI both internally, externally, but also with our products and the services that we do.
Thank you. Henry.
Hi all, my name's Henry St. Aubin. I'm Chief Product Officer at FieldNode. FieldNode is an early stage tech company based out of Norway, and we provide digital inventory. So the idea is that we replace large physical inventories with a digital version, so that when a part is ordered, instead of being fetched from a warehouse somewhere, it is printed by a 3D printer and delivered to the site. I should add,
sorry.
We're working. Yeah, we're working as part of an industry collaboration project who are funding us, which consists of 8 operators. It's been going for a couple of years, and the main output of that is the software that we're developing.
Thanks, all three of you. And I think the synergy between creating structure to data, creating useful purpose of the data, and then manufacturing something with that data is a real good theme to be talking about today. And Henry, maybe sticking with you in that conversation there, that digital inventory, is that something that is a customer problem that you see on a recurring basis purely within energy? I mean, that may be your focus just now, but it's not that uncommon, I would imagine, for any legacy business to have that sort of issue.
No, that's right. Digital inventories exist in a number of industries. In fact, we're starting in energy, so FieldNode's been around since 2020, but our intent is to move into other industries in the fullness of time as well. In particular, probably the military application is going to be what we look at next. This applies all over. I'd say probably the oil and gas industry is less advanced than other industries in this respect, but hopefully catching up quite rapidly.
Yeah, and Connor, from your side, you're coming into an organisation who wants to move to what Henry's doing. You know, wants to do in-time inventory or product manufacturing, but the data to allow you to do that is, I'm not saying quite on green screen, but it's got or on NT, and those are all names that will strike fear into anybody who's been in our industry for a while. But if you look at it, how you bring that structure in, what your role as you're coming into it, what are the problems you see in terms of that barrier to innovation because my data is not structured or it's just everywhere?
Yeah, it's one of the most common challenges we see actually as a business, is unstructured data, and it was one of the barriers that in the early days prevented us from scaling. The inability to deploy our own technologies due to lack of structure of data. And it led us to use tools which now come under the AI umbrella, actually, to try and put some structure on this data internally. But what we found is we were actually sitting on a product that we could actually potentially sell to our customers, which is where Validate was born. It's an automated data validation tool. So when companies such as Henry's come into businesses, if we have deployed Validate, there's a structured data set that enables other technologies to be deployed at pace and at scale. And this, yes, you could say we're helping other companies be successful. But we don't see it like that. We see it as a synergy between technology businesses, that if we work in one ecosystem together, we give these operators a competent digital toolbox, because at the moment, the digital toolbox for many operators is inadequate. And that's why they struggle with performance internally in organization and also in asset performance. So structured data for us is a critical starting point before we even deploy any of our technologies.
Thank you. And Thomas, did you see that lack of structured data or maybe historic, I'm not going to use the word archaic, structure in terms of that digital being a barrier to innovation because it's too difficult? You're not getting the right decision making because the data's aged, or all those formats that sit there. We want to be innovative, but we don't know how because our systems don't let us, because we've always done it that way.
It's a major challenge. I mean, most companies have vast amounts of data sitting in various different sort of flat files, like PDF files, or semi-structured as well, data such as Excel files, or even things that we think of as quite structured can have plenty of edge cases or things are slightly different that come from one vendor or another, and all this information can be pretty difficult to get at what they need and when they need it. So I've heard lots of stories where people have spent months trying to collect all the data that they need to be able to even start doing the analytical job that they really want to do. And that means that when you're trying to collect data from lots of these different sources, you end up trying to copy and paste or eyeballing it. And I know there are lots of solutions where people focus maybe on a specific type of data or a specific structure, and you can build specific tools for that. But sometimes you need to allow for some flexibility for what the user wants, because that may change as they're working with their data, what information they need from it and how they'd like to see it. And I think that's a particularly exciting area for the AI can help with in both regard to accessing data, but also getting the data in the shape and the format that the user wants it in.
And where you're working in that space and where you're discovering those problems by working with customers, is there a geography that's doing it any better than any other at this point? That you've seen, Thomas? Is there anywhere that you can say they're slightly ahead or well ahead, or where do we fit into that mix in terms of North Sea energy?
I think the landscape on this is pretty uneven just about everywhere, and it depends a little bit. Maybe certain parts of certain companies are doing quite well or come quite far with it, and other parts are maybe struggling a little bit more. It could be that sort of in the same location, one customer has like one set of structure, another implemented another way of approaching things. So there are a lot of big initiatives to try and solve these issues on a much broader sense. But again, I think this is something that it's like laundry. It's never ending. It's putting in place the right processes to handle that. So having a good system behind it is extremely powerful and useful.
And it's a great point. And Henry, talking to you as Chief Product Officer, so you've got to have a market for your product. How has technology helped you innovate that product in terms of, does it give you quicker customer feedback? Does it allow you to iterate more quickly? Does it allow you to experiment with less of a problem or less of an impact? How have you seen that technology impact helping you guys?
Well, I think in terms of organizing sort of large data sets, which are structured differently or maybe unstructured at all, that's going to be a big challenge in the digital inventory space, because there are hundreds of thousands, millions even of parts that eventually we would want to see in a digital inventory. But trying to figure out which ones of those are most suitable for additive manufacturing, that's quite challenging. So I think in that sense, it could be extremely useful in kind of filling the inventory. Because without large numbers of parts in it, its value is less. So it certainly AI is going to play a huge role in that. In terms of kind of developing our products, we kind of use generative AI to assist in the coding. So that means we can turn around features quicker, but basically have a higher throughput in our sprints. But we haven't used it necessarily to kind of track user experience yet. I don't think we're quite at that point yet. But maybe that could be something we look at in the future as well.
Yeah, and that whole, I think for the first time for us, it's the first. Customers are always quite knowledgeable, but customers have access to the same sort of tools as we have. I think it's the chap who's in charge, or the CEO of GitHub, said that the most common programming language in the next 2 years is going to be English, because we're going to prompt coding in English. But the danger with that is you don't know what you're coding. You don't know how the code is stuck together. So I've got a knife and a scalpel, and I could go and do brain surgery just because of there's a danger there. Connor, are you seeing any of that you're getting into businesses or organizations that have tried or attempted to do something smart in that space because it looked easy and then it's sort of fallen apart? Or are you more grassroots level in terms of how you're operating with that data level?
Yeah, I've actually seen both, Graham, in a way, and I guess it's the danger with this AI generation that we have now. But as mentioned earlier on by Gareth, AI and the technologies that sit under this umbrella are not new to industry at all. Of course, Chat GPT, which a lot of people got very excited about. You see a lot of companies try to create their own internal versions. And then you have users who misunderstand the outputs. They're supposed to be prompts to guide you to make better decisions, so to make informed decisions. And they misconstrue those prompts with actual outcomes. And then they make decisions based on those prompts without investigating them. And this is the fear that I would have, where people are not educated to a point where they understand that these are prompts. You still need to do your own investigation and verification. And we work with our customers during onboarding to make sure that they understand this, that the prompts you get, you should challenge in a positive way and understand the outcome rather than accepting it. And I think that's critical in this AI discussion. The prompts are fantastic, but please don't take it as gospel. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've seen that impact in social media. And I mean, that very high profile of it is that whole deep fake. Are you trusting what you've got? If you're blind enough to trust that one source of information once, there's a challenge there. And Thomas, as you move into that in terms of software engineering, there's specific company problems, but as we get into decommissioning, because that's what's going to happen in the North Sea, and then we get into recommissioning in terms of renewables, that asset management has to be transferable with trust. Are you seeing more of that asset, whether it's a license or a platform or a rig or a vessel, whatever the asset is, has to come with a digital MOT or logbook that has to be trustworthy as it moves forward? Are those sort of things that you're seeing customers lean into you a little bit more because it's happening much more quickly now than it's ever done?
I think there's a number of pressures in the industry, such as those you mentioned, and higher demand for better quality, the energy transition, and these are major kind of real challenges in our industry. And so any tools to help people analyze or work with their data and interact with their data in new ways is beneficial. So a lot of places, say in decommissioning or even if you're drilling new wells, for example, that there's a history, and that history is often recorded in kind of, say, unstructured documents, and it can be quite hard to find relevant information that can give you the right informed decisions. And that information also has to be correct. It can't be something plucked out of thin air. But I have seen some examples where people have been able to dig deep into their report history and find, there were problems during drilling before. They're able to actually apply that and take that into account. And that may have been easily lost, or they may not have been aware of those problems before they go into that drilling campaign. And I think things like that can be really important. And AI wouldn't necessarily be, well, I wouldn't advise it to be part of the decision-making process, but certainly changing the way we interact with the information that we have, and perhaps provide some context to that, or find relevant information, or distill that information in a way that we can then dig deeper and work with that data more.
Good response. Thank you. And Henry, in that space, if you've got certain elements of the energy sector that are more responsive to what you're doing, in terms of they've got more immediate problems, so they need it solved in a more innovative way, or they're thinking longer term and being smarter about it by using technology. Is there any elements of that you're seeing right now? Or is there any pockets within the energy sector that you feel are adopting technology and innovatively better than others?
In terms of additive manufacturing, I think what we're seeing is that the operators are embracing it pretty quickly. For them, the value is clear. I mean, it's shorter lead times, and they reduce the cost of having to keep a physical inventory. In addition, when they're in the middle of some kind of a development project and they have an unexpected engineering need, often an additive manufacturing solution is suitable for that. Where there are some challenges, I think, in additive manufacturing is with the OEMs, so the original equipment manufacturers. There is a lot of concern about the security of their IP. If they just put their designs up on a digital inventory, there's a concern that could sort of leak out, and then their secret source is kind of lost in that regard. So there's quite a lot of efforts going into designing and proving out the security of the IP storage. But when it comes to designing and building things where the IP is not an issue, there's very little holding that back. So I think that's where we're seeing the fastest uptake right now.
And is your model on-premise or near-premise manufacturing, or as near as you can be to the source where the problem is? You try and manufacture as close to that source as you can, and if so, how is that done?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, on our network, we have a number of manufacturers who have 3D printing capability. And the idea is that you would get IP from anywhere, which could belong to any company in the world who's on our network, and then manufacture it at any one of the manufacturers on our network as well. That's the first way. But our sister company, Field Made, actually produces 3D printing solutions. They have these containers which can be deployed to site, and they have actually been doing that on a few projects. So you've got 3D printing capability actually right next to where the project is being conducted. It's got the printers inside, the software to do the engineering and to prepare the print file, and they just do it. So they're able to respond immediately to demands as they come up in the project.
That is game changing. You know, if you're decommissioning something or working on something and that weld or that leg or that element is 30 years old, but you've got the ability to do it locally and manufacture it locally, that must be game changing for your customer base in terms of how they're approaching that.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, yeah, you find a part and it's broken somehow. A common use case we see is when the part is obsolete, so the OEM is no longer manufacturing it. So they just take a 3D scan, put that into the engineering software, turn that into a 3D model, and then they've got something which they can use to turn into a print file and produce the part immediately. There has to be a check to make sure that they're not in breach of the IP, of course. But that's sort of agnostic to the technology, if you like. The technology is there to make that happen.
And talking about that security of design, we spoke about IP in the previous session, which was really interesting, how you commercialize that IP. But how do you protect that design? So, Connor, you're in an environment that you've pulled this data together, and that allows Henry's team to take the data from your environment and print something. What are the checks that you think or feel should go in place to say somebody hasn't sabotaged that or deliberately or accidentally, so the valve gets printed at the same size? It doesn't compromise the final product. Where do people fit into that part in the technology and innovation space?
Yeah, I guess within our software, where the people fit in is requires a detailed understanding of the requirements and the specifications down to tag component level. And within our software, we validate against that pre-configured specification. We have algorithms built in using, again, the term AI, and using analytics and automation, where our product would check and verify all of the component parts that have been designed and built against that 3D scan to ensure that, okay, this is what the piece of equipment was, and this is what we shall produce. And that's where the checks and balances are done from a specification perspective down to component material types is the level we go down to in our validate software. And to give some context, I guess, our validate software, when it's running on an asset or on a project, it's processing 15 million data checks a day, our software. So if you leverage that against the manual traditional processes, of course, there's no competition in terms of time and quality output, because you're not relying on people. And that's another challenge, Graham. When you're relying on people checking that volume of data, that introduces human error. But we remove that through technology. And yeah, the value's in the sum of the parts. And if you trust the sum of the parts, then the outcomes for companies such as Henry's is they can manufacture at scale, trusting the data.
It's a good point, because that validation is absolutely critical, especially when we're aware of state-sponsored, criminals, who are lawless, because you can only deter an honest thief. And sometimes the opportunity is not to steal, it's to disrupt, which is a challenging thing. And that cybersecurity element, Thomas, and where you're sitting, I take it when you're building that software, you're developing and integrating those processes for customers, that security built in at the start of that process. It's a consideration from day one for the reasons that we've just spoken about between Henry and Connor. And how receptive are customers to you building that into the project nowadays?
Yeah, it's important that there's trust in the software and what we're using, and we take a pretty vendor neutral approach. And yes, we produce our own software, but we do also work with other software as well. We work predominantly with trusted partners, and we are a trusted partner for our clients as well. We take it very seriously, the security, the ethical considerations around AI and how that data is delivered, making sure there's proper testing, using the latest technologies, etc. So that is important for us to make sure that things are done correctly, and it's important for our customers as well to have that trust. So, I mean, we've been building solutions, say, for example, with third-party models, but through, say, Microsoft, where we know that the data and the chats or the history or whatever data is kept private and secure for the customer. And there's a promise on that from Microsoft as well. So we use trusted tools, and we test that and monitor ourselves a lot as well.
Thank you. So we're moving into the last 5 minutes of our session, and it's been great. It's a very technical session, so but very well explained by the three of you, because it is about everybody uses the products that you guys provide. Everybody's going to continue to using those products that you guys provide and those services, and it's the impact that those make. And I'm also completely aware that none of the three of you are sitting in Aberdeen right now. So we are talking globally about innovation and technology and its impact. So quickly, in the last 4 minutes, 5 minutes, if I go around the three of you to say, what are the opportunities you see for technology as we're discussing it today? You know, I think we're all aligned in where we're talking about. What do you see the main thing? What one main thing would you see as the biggest opportunity coming down the line for your customers that the market should be aware of? And Henry, could I start with you, please? Would that be okay?
Sure. I think the main opportunity is, from a kind of additive manufacturing point of view, is to reduce the lead times for projects primarily, and the cost. By having the sort of digital marketplace, it sort of fosters competition at the manufacturing stage of the supply chain, which would drive down costs. And in addition to that, the manufacturing being located so close to the point of need, the transport of these parts results in lower CO2 emissions. So there's a very good opportunity for reducing your scope 2 emissions as an operator. So yeah, I would say faster response times through lower lead times, lower costs, and a reduction in emissions.
Fantastic. Thank you. Connor.
Yeah, from my perspective, I think the biggest opportunity is securing that robust data platform that we can trust. And a phrase I used earlier is the sum of the parts is the value creation. And you can look at that at various levels. So if we look today in innovation and technology with OGV, bringing together like-minded companies where on this call, you could potentially have 3 businesses working together for an operator in synergy, which would create a huge value proposition for customers. And I think the big opportunity for customers and clients is understanding that technology companies working in partnership can reap big rewards. And that's been a big focus of ours over the last financial year and the current financial year, is seeking out partnerships with other technology firms where we understand that we're the best in our lane, but others may be superior in the other lane. So let's not try and reinvent the wheel here. Let's partner with other businesses and provide maximum value to the end user. I think that's a big opportunity for the industry.
As an SME myself, I think a cluster of SMEs, a consortium or a group of SMEs can usually outperform enterprise any day of the week when it comes to customer solution delivery. That I think it's a great point. Thanks, Connor. Thomas, the last words are with you.
Okay, thanks. I think definitely AI and particularly generative AI are going to change how we interact with and work with our data. That means that how we find relevant data, so data discovery is going to be improved, how we improve data quality and have management around data quality, and how data flows between applications and different data sources can all be enhanced and made better with a lot of the latest technology. And it's more about building the right architecture around those models and the AI that's being used for that. So I think there's a massive potential of sort of changing how we use our data and how we gain access to it, how we move it around. And that can even impact things like choices about archiving data or having the right data access to us, which can change the cost of keeping data massively. So I think there's a massive potential in the industry for that.
Gentlemen, I mean, thank you very much. I think the positivity that you've got, future gazing, future looking, but actually getting things done now and investing in technology, enabling innovation by doing that for yourselves as well as your customers is really what we were seeking out from today's session. So thank you very much for your time. Connor, Thomas and Henry, thanks for joining OGV Live, and we'll speak to you all soon.
Thank you, Graham.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, gents.
More stimulating conversation. Don't forget, we're online on YouTube. Well, you'll know this because you'll either be watching us on YouTube and LinkedIn or Instagram or X, because why would I need to tell you that if you're already there? You can send us a message through some of those platforms if you like, if you've got any questions or pointers on how we go forward. Don't forget the OGV Energy Voice magazine this month is all about innovation and technology. You can see it from our banner up above us here. And very shortly, we'll be speaking to Stuart Broadley from EIC. He's going to give us a rundown of an up-and-coming event here in Aberdeen very soon. So I don't mean that. I'm not going to apologize for this in any other way than, Teresa, thank you for joining me and saving me from all those men, because it's delightful to have you on with us, and doing your next bit. So, Teresa, as with everybody else, can you please introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, what you do, and who you do it for, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Teresa Wilkie. I'm the director for Rig Logics within Westwood Global Energy Group, which is one of OGV's partners. So we provide data and some insight and things for OGV every month in their magazine.
Perfect. Thank you. Beautifully done. So from our point of view, we're going to chat a little bit about innovation technology, if you see any hotspots around the world just now, but over to you for your update.
Yeah, okay, no worries. I'm going to try and share the screen, so fingers crossed that part works. Okay, first of all, here we go. So just let me know you can see this okay, hopefully. Nope, yes, there is. That's the one, excellent, great. So yeah, it's it's been a while since Westwood has given a sort of a full update on the offshore rig market for OGV. So today I'm going to give a really brief snapshot of what's been going on in that particular segment and where we're kind of sitting for the year so far in terms of rig supply, utilization, and award activity and day rates as well. So let's just see if this is going to work. Yes, okay, good. All right, so just jumping right in then. So this is a quick overview of the three main rig types, so jackups, semi-subs, and drill ships, and how those fleets are currently made up. So jackups, firstly, you can see from that red inner circle there that 74% of the marketed fleet are working, whether that's drilling, plug and abandonment work, or accommodation services. So that is actually the highest number amongst those three rig types, and jackups also have the lowest percentage of stacked units as well. So for the floating rig segment, it's not quite as busy, with just 52% of semis and 63% of drill ships currently working. So in terms of rigs under construction, there are still 16 jackups, 8 semi-subs, and 8 drill ships in shipyards. And out of this total, actually only 4, and all of those are jackups, have future work in place. Now, in terms of utilization through to the end of last month, you can see those trend lines kind of follow those changes in Brent crude prices really since 2010. Over the past few years, strong oil prices have kind of helped to support high utilization rates off the back of higher demand for offshore drilling. So drill ship utilization remained the highest at the end of April out of the three rig segments, as you can see there in that sort of pink color, and that was at 95%. Jackup utilization, although still very strong at 94%, it has actually begun to dip, and that's following some contract suspensions of jackups by the national oil company Saudi Aramco, and that's by up to 1 year for each unit. And that figure has fallen further and will continue to fall over the next month once all of those 22 jackups actually start their suspension periods. However, we have actually now seen 3 of these suspended rigs be recontracted elsewhere, and we're hearing rumours of at least 2 to 3 more to be confirmed soon. So this should sort of help lessen that downward pressure on the jackup utilisation. Now, in terms of semi-sub utilisation, it's quite a different picture, as you can see here with that sort of darker, the darker line. Although it can be fairly common for lower demand in the winter periods for the segment, the decline in utilisation has been really quite sharp this year. So in May 2023, that segment was at about 90% utilised, but that's fallen to just 82% at the end of April. Now, there are actually 14 marketed units that are available for hire and don't have any future work in place. And we have seen an increase in retirements of these rig types this year as well. So we've already seen 5 units already recorded for retirement, or, I mean, they may not have actually been retired or scrapped yet, but planned for it. And that's versus just 1 retirement last year. And really that's due to, well, as far as we see it, lacking near-term demand in this segment. And then in terms of contract award activities, so on the left-hand side, we have the jackup awarded contract days. So you can see that this segment was really busy in the 22 to 23 period. And a lot of this was down to Middle Eastern national oil companies really ramping up drilling activity. But you can see that we are off to really quite a slow start this year. Again, we're obviously seeing very little new demand coming out of the Middle East, which is, again, that sort of main driver behind the jackup segment. We hear some operators are potentially holding off on tendering or actually making awards from their outstanding tenders, as they feel they might be able to get a better deal now that there's going to be these additional rigs coming into supply from Saudi Arabia. However, there are still a number of long-term requirements waiting to be awarded. And because of the large investment needed for sort of, whether it's a 3 to 5 or longer year deal, some of those are taking a bit longer to be awarded as well. The semi market, as I mentioned earlier, it's also very slow this year. There appears to be very little long-term demand for work, again, outstanding for those that start this year. The majority of awards have taken place year to date. They've really gone to campaigns for work in the North Sea, South America, and the Asia Pacific as well. The drillship market, however, appears to be getting busier after starting off pretty slow in the first quarter of the year. So year to date, we've recorded 38 years of backlog added for these rigs, which is actually about 52% of the entire 2023 total awarded days. So it's, that's looking pretty healthy there. And you can see that the areas bringing in the lion's share of demand are North and South America, as well as West Africa. So the Golden Triangle is really continuing to lead that market in terms of awards for drill ships. And then just finally, just a very quick look at how much these rigs are earning these days. So again, on the left-hand side for jackups, we can see that despite that, that sort of lackluster award activity that I've been talking about, and then in addition to that, of course, the suspension of those confirmed 22 jackups from Saudi Aramco and that, additional supply that's going to come into the market. Despite all that, day rates have still been trending up so far this year. So between 2023 and 2024, the year to date, that there's been an average increase of 4.2%. And then when you compare that with 2019, that's actually a 74% increase. So pretty substantial. So for drill ships on the far right-hand side, it's a similar story in terms of increasing costs to hire a drill ship, with the average leading edge day rate year to date is now $471,000. So that is a 13% increase year on year and a 155% increase versus 2019. Now, once again, it's a bit of a different story in terms of that sluggish semi-sub segment. So we had witnessed continuous increases in day rates from 2022 through to last year, but year to date, we've actually seen a decrease. However, I would say that there have been quite a few more awards for your sort of mid-water, third generation semi-sub, so slightly older units, which don't tend to command, I would say they do command a good deal less than, maybe your sixth generation harsh environment, sort of high spec units, of which we saw several awards for those last year and very few this year. So I think that is also skewing the picture just a little bit. However, as I mentioned, there aren't a lot of outstanding awards or long-term awards expected in the semi-sub segment this year. So we may not see those average day rates reach the same highs as we did last year by the end of 2024. But of course, that always remains to be seen if there are some big changes in the market, or potentially if there are any large campaigns that are outstanding that we perhaps don't know about. So that is really it from me for my quick snapshot with my prepared slides. So I'll just hand it back to you, Graham.
Thank you for the roundup there, and just to tail that off. Obviously, we're talking about innovation and technology, and in that space, are you seeing any markets really benefiting from the adoption of new technologies? Is there any space or whether you can mention them or not, any one organization or organizations that are proving to be really quite innovative in this space?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we should obviously mention that the offshore rig industry is, I would say, pretty renowned for continuously innovating, and whether that's in terms of advancements to help with things like safety or efficiency, drilling smarter, drilling faster for cost savings, blah, blah, blah. But also more recently in helping to mitigate the carbon footprint associated with offshore operations. So, I think there's a lot of innovations and technology enhancements that are always ongoing within these different drilling contractors. But I think, and I heard a couple of guys mention it today, that AI is obviously, it's a hot topic these days. And I was reading quite recently about various ways and plans to bring that into the drilling segment. And that's to help, again, with finding the safest and most effective ways to reach total depth on a well, but also, to help to predict incidents and to predict sort of potential hazards as well. So I'd say that's a pretty interesting one. But there's a lot of other things going on, especially in terms of digital twins or real-time data tracking, or also you're hearing more about that within the offshore drilling segment as well. So there was a good example of that, which came out in the press about, I think it's Constellation, which is a drilling contractor, does a lot of work in Brazil, and Petrobras, obviously the national oil company out there. So they recently were talking about how they're working together on rig-specific digital twin technology, and how that's going to help identify sort of energy-saving upgrades and technologies as well. So there's, I think that's quite an interesting one. Also, like I kind of mentioned, with the sort of real-time data tracking and those sort of digital applications as well that are allowing users to view their KPIs in real time, and that's what actually during drilling or tripping or rising running, and also really driving improvements in that sort of drilling efficiency. So sure. I think there's a lot going on. I mean, that's just a few things, but I think the main parts are very similar, is that they're really, those innovations or enhancements are really there to kind of drive the safety, the efficiency, and like I say, more recently, those sort of reductions in emissions as well. So, yeah. So
there's nothing massively game-changing coming through, but there's lots of incremental things that are amassing into helping with the energy transition, digital adoption. These whole things they're happening right across the space.
Absolutely, yeah.
Sorry, I'm on a fine now that I've now hung up on somebody that I find myself £10 now, but I have not had my phone on silent. Okay, to Teresa, thank you very much for joining us this week or this episode, and thanks for your update. And we'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you for having me. See you
You're
again.
welcome. Bye now. Thanks. So finally, on this episode, all about innovation and technology, there's an event arriving in Aberdeen in middle of June, operated by the Energy Industries Council. And to find out more about that, we're joined today by Stuart Broadley. Stuart, good to see you. How are you?
Great. Thank you. Down in London today. I'm constantly traveling. That's how I am. It's so busy, like everybody is as well. So.
Good, glad to hear it. Exciting busy. You're smiling as you're saying it, which is the main thing.
It's pre-COVID levels of travel are back, I think. And I don't know how I feel about that, but I have to be out there. I have to meet people. I have to connect people again. It's not enough to do it virtually. I use that a lot, but we've just got to also meet people face to face and do the deals. And that's a nice lead in, I think, to the Energy Exports Conference, which is what we're here to talk about, because
Absolutely.
Please, over to you.
Tell us more. No. Please tell us more. So it's happening in Aberdeen, but who should get involved, and why should we be involved in this? Because you've given me a background to it, and it sounds amazing. I'm aware of it, but I need to know more. Tell me, please.
Well, 6 years ago was the first edition of the Energy Exports Conference. It came out of some work so I run this organization called EIC, which is a large energy trade association. And we do research every year called Survive and Thrive, which asks our members what strategies do they like to use to grow in challenging markets. And let's face it, we still have challenging, although it's exciting, it's a challenging market now. So this is the actually 8th year of that research. We still do it every year. But back then, after a couple of years of doing the research, the least used growth strategy was developing new export markets. And we were really concerned about that and working with a number of other organizations, including the British government, the Scottish government, UK Export Finance, and other trade associations, and the ETZ and Aberdeen City Council and other organizations. We were like, should we do something about this? Because the Northeast Scotland supply chain, we all know at some point is going to have to transition increasingly away from both oil and gas and a challenging and sometimes, poorly supported energy market in the UK. So we thought, okay, let's develop an event which is all about making it convenient to learn about some of these amazing energy market opportunities around the world. Only 2% of the world's energy market is here in the UK.
Yeah.
So we're missing out 98%, and so many companies either have never exported or they've retracted from it, or they just export to the markets they've always exported to. Or when I say export, that may also include doing service work, international trade work, having bases there, but they're just not developing new markets. So actually, interestingly, this year I've just completed the 8th edition of the research, and we're just finalizing the report now. And I'm afraid 8 years consecutively, the least used growth strategy is unfortunately still developing new export markets. It's hard, takes time, 3 or 4 years to get to profit. Many companies feel there's a lot of risk, there's a lot of taxes. You hire people and then they leave. Finding a local partner is so hard. So all these problems have led us to create this event, which is about bringing many of these decision makers for some of the best energy projects around the world, covering oil and gas and renewables and nuclear and hydrogen, carbon capture and conventional power, to bring them to Aberdeen for 2 days. So for those companies that are either established exporters but aren't looking at new markets, or companies that really focus on the domestic market and haven't really looked at exporting yet, for both types of companies, big or small, no matter what the sector you're in, no matter where you are in the UK, we'll bring lots of the key decision makers into Aberdeen for 2 days, and they're all signed up, ready to come. When these companies come to this event, they're not coming sort of reluctantly, and will leave after 10 minutes, as happens in lots of conferences. They come signed up to spend a long time here, doing one-to-one meetings, spending time walking around the exhibition hall. So this year we'll have 2,000 attendees at the event, and it's a free event. So anybody can still sign up and come along. It's one of the things we really work hard to do. 1,000 British energy supply chain companies will be represented at the event, some exhibiting, many just walking the floor. And we have 100 speakers, including many of these big producers of oil and gas projects and developers of renewable projects and nuclear projects, and some of the inspirations behind some of these new technology projects like hydrogen and carbon capture. Mm-hmm. Some of the companies we're really excited to confirm are definitely there. Aramco's there. Aramco Europe comes in force for all 2 days, and I've heard on the grapevine they're bringing a couple of people from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, so Saudi Aramco coming as well. So that's a scoop for OGV Live, because we haven't declared that anywhere yet.
Thank you.
So that's really good. And we have Petrobras. Now, what an exciting market Brazil is right now. So we're so pleased that Petrobras are coming to talk about what's happening there. Petronas coming, another really interesting market. Both Brazil, Malaysia, only last year set their net zero targets. And so really have come to learn from the UK market, but also present the projects. And then we have Equinor there, we have Ørsted there, and many, many other amazing project developers. So that's the whole basis of this event, is to make it more convenient, to bring to life this concept of new export markets by saying, come and spend 2 days and actually meet these companies, get to know them, register with them, have one-on-one, informal, formal, and social time with them.
I mean, so thank you for that. I mean, beautifully summarized and stated. But the thing that really excited me about it, as a trading company, you're putting potential customers in the room for me to go and press the palm with, and not just 2 or 3 of them in the corner, not just people on the podium. They're going to be there in numbers. These companies have problems that the supply chain that works in the North Sea, in this basin, can go and solve and get paid for. And that's a fantastic thing, let's face it.
Yeah, it's 2 ways, isn't it? I mean, we've got a supply chain that's not exporting to enough countries and doesn't like exporting. Let's simplify it to that. So it's about, come on, get going. We're going to make it easier for you to meet some companies. Yeah. So kind of really giving a nudge to the British supply chain. But you're right, we also have many of the world's biggest developers and operators and contractors. We have a lot of tier 1 EPCs coming as well to present on their projects. And for a lot of the supply chain, that's actually who they deal with. And those companies are all faced now with a booming market. Most markets of the world and most energy technologies of the world are doing well. And they actually can't always find the supply chain now that they need, both in capacity terms, in sort of availability terms, fast enough and good enough, and of course some of the technology solutions. And that links nicely into this edition of OGV Live, which is, of course, technology still trumps so many other ways that you can compete against your competitors. If you have that differentiated technical solution, that's what these companies are looking for. You know, when you look at a company like Aramco or like Petrobras or like Petronas, but you can say others, Equinor, of course, and others, of course, they're always looking for the best technical solution, because that normally also cuts emissions. It's normally safer, more efficient, better production. It disrupts and shortcuts the way they've always done things. Companies these days are moving beyond, we've always done it like that, and we don't want to change. That's not what we're seeing now. Companies are looking for solutions to problems. Yeah. And I think for the supply chain, they're understanding this now. They're understanding if you don't want to compete head on price, you need to get as close as you can to the customers and find some tailored solution, a one-stop shop solution to the way you help that client, so that you actually cut out a lot of the kind of transactional competitors. So come and spend 2 days with a lot of these companies and learn how to develop that solution rather than just bid, you know, in the cold, hard light of a nasty competitive environment that we often find ourselves in. And it's all about building trust and relationships, and that means face time.
I think you're absolutely right. I think in any sector, that especially if you're in the service industry, that the technology largely is about the same. If you speak, the price is largely about the same, but it's how you service the customer, early stages, information gather, and solve those problems. And I completely agree with you. Man after my own heart in that space. So Stuart, tell us, the event runs when? How do we find out more? How do we register? Give us the logistics here to close us off, please.
Yep, 11th to the 12th of June. So in 10 days' time, it's free to register. You could register right up to the day, but obviously the sooner you register, the better. You're more likely to have a pre-prepared badge. But we'll take you right on the day if necessary, if that's the way your business is so busy right now that you don't want to make a decision until then. Don't worry, we understand. It's at P&J Live in Aberdeen. It's an event where you can come and spend some formal time with these clients and a lot of informal time. We also have the after party organized by OGV on the Tuesday night as well. So the way you register, though, is you just search Energy Exports Conference, and you search on that. It'll take you straight to the EIC registration page, or you can go to the EIC website, which is the-eic.com, and you'll see that the Energy Exports Conference is the first thing that comes up, and just register there. Simple registration process, and you are in, and I look forward to seeing everybody there.
Fantastic, Stuart. We will definitely be along. We will certainly enjoy that in-person networking, because nothing creates positive friction like shaking hands, and that's what we should be all about. Stuart Broadley, thank you very much for joining us today.
Pleasure.
And for running off there. Look forward to seeing you there. Bye now. What a great afternoon. I've thoroughly enjoyed this as your guest host. My name's Graham Gordon from ifb.net. Thank you to all our guests this afternoon. Informative, lively, opinionated. That's exactly what we want. Don't forget, pick up your copy of the OGV magazine. It's a great read. And the next edition is going to be on offshore wind. So the next OGV Energy Live will be in offshore wind. Look out for more details coming soon. We hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.